Good morning. How's everybody doing? There's always kind of this awkward little lapse of time when a new Facebook Live goes live. So I'm just going to hang out here for a minute and see how it's going. Are you guys able to hear me? Good morning. My name is Crispina French, and I am a textile or used clothing recycling artist. So good morning, everybody. How's it going? I'm really excited today. I had a ton of people ask me about today's tutorial, and I'm really excited to share this with you. So I'm going to just try to angle this a little differently. Let me know if you can hear me. Hello, hello. Good morning. My name is Crispina French, and I am a textile or used clothing recycling artist. And today I am going to teach you how to make face masks from stuff that you might have kicking around. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. Here's what I made. Isn't it awesome? Woohoo! It's our latest fashion accessory. So anyways, we're gonna make sure we're gonna make these out of things that you might just have kicking around your house. And I'm hoping that I can encourage you guys to wear face masks. This is the thing. It's not about you protecting yourself. It's about you protecting everyone you interact with. And it's about everyone you interact with protecting you. So it's kind of like this thing. I saw this really beautiful video that was made in the Czech Republic a few days ago. I posted it on my blog, which is at my website. Good morning, Sarah. I'm so glad you're here. And Nancy, woohoo! So the video was about, it was made by this Czech group of people who have been able to kind of maintain their level of infection at a pretty low rate. So they attributed that to having to wear a mask in public. And I got a lot of feedback over the last few days since I announced that today I was going to be teaching this, and a lot of people are worried about what kind of filters to use and how to make them like really super germ blocking, which is of course very important. But I think the more important thing is that we think of this as something that we just do. It keeps you from touching your face when in public, and it also does protect you. And if you watch the video on my blog, it'll tell you, I think it was like 90 to 95% of the germs that are floating around the air that we share are contained with just a very simple mask. So I was showing this earlier, if you guys just tuned in. Here's the mask. Hi, is that Ellen or Eileen? It's Eileen from Toronto. Thanks for being with me today. So this is the mask. Okay, and it's made out of stuff that is probably in your home. So you need something like this. You need a pair of like leggings or something that like a stretchy fabric. Leggings work really well, or if you have one of those like camis that's got the shelf bra thing built in that you're not using, those two things work really well. And then you need a fabric, like I said on the little materials list I put together. I said you need a men's shirt. You don't really have to have a men's shirt. You can have the same kind of fabric. So this is a skirt, and I'm always doing the backwards thing on the videos because the camera's opposite. Anyway, so something that's pretty finely woven, pretty densely woven, and something that is cotton preferably. I have this real thing about plastic, and all synthetic fibers like polyester and whatever else that there is out there is all plastic. So if you're breathing plastic, you might not want to be doing that. So go for cotton or linen if you have it. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut a piece of fabric that is 6.5 by 9 inches. So I have a bunch prepped here. This is a jazzy shirt I found at the Salvation Army a while back. So you're gonna cut 2 of these pieces. And the reason why I have you cut 2 pieces rather than just one big piece and fold it is because it's really nice to have the mask different front and back, so you know what side goes next to your face. You always want to wear the same side next to your face. And let me just interject. I am not a doctor. I have no medical training whatsoever. The only thing I can do is tell you that these are helpful based on the little bit of reading and research I've done online. So these are very simple cotton masks, and I feel like it's certainly better than nothing. If you're immunocompromised or you have some sort of lung issue, these are probably not going to be enough protection to keep you from getting sick if you're exposed to the virus. So keep that in mind. So back to lesson here. We're gonna take two pieces that are differently colored. So I have this one prepped here. Okay, so so if you're making them different colors, you need two different garments to cut up. If you only have one garment to cut up, don't worry about it. You just make them front and back the same and just wash them. So if you're making these for gifts for people, it's important that people who use these wash them before they use them, okay? Even if you've washed the fabric and it's clean, just to keep any kind of contamination to a very minimum. We want to make sure that the masks that are being worn by people are laundered by those people so they don't have any, they're not going to transmit germs from you making them. I read today on the New York Times that up to 50% of the people who have the coronavirus are unaware of it. They have no symptoms. They're asymptomatic. So as I'm here with you today, and I've been in my little hideaway in the woods for, God, it's nearly 3 weeks, I could be carrying the virus. I don't know. I don't get sick often, so who knows. Anyway, so you're going to cut your two pieces. Again, it's 6.5 by 9 inches, okay? And then you're going to cut the stretchy fabric, that's your leggings or your camisole, into a very narrow strip, okay? This is 1/2 inch wide. And it's, to cut the fabric and make it really a nice crisp edge, I use a rotary cutter, and on my work surface is my rotary cutting mat, and then I have my ruler. And you can, if you're familiar with these, you probably know how to cut, you can measure the width of the fabric really easily with this. And I just want to welcome all the new folks here. Hi, Diane. And I just want to let you guys know that the reason why it might seem a little awkward, my teaching style is like very frontal, is because I live in a very remote area in Western Massachusetts, and our internet access is like spotty at best. So the only way I can make tutorials right now is to do Facebook Lives. I can't like shoot a video and then download it and edit it and then upload it like I normally would, but I'm not able to do that where I live, and I normally have a better connection available to me at the library, but obviously the library is not available right now. So after you cut your fabric, you got your, let's see, hold on a second. You're going to put your fabric face to face, so right sides together, okay? So this one's going to be white on one side and the flowery fabric on the other. This is the front of the flowery fabric, and so I have the right sides together. And then I'm going to cut my stretchy 1/2 inch wide band that I cut. And a lot of, if you're using, like, this was cut from like a camisole top, so it's in a loop. So you're going to cut the loop open, and hold on one second, let me just grab my scissors here. All right, so we're going to cut off the seam on one end, like that. And then we're going to measure it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 inches. I measure 7 inches on my ruler, and I'm just going to cut these two pieces the same length. So now we have these two, these are going to be the straps that go over your ears. Now, I want to preface this. My husband and I and our kids are all kind of large people, so if you're not a large person and you're, that you might want to adjust your size increment. So I cut these 7 inches long, and I cut my squares 6.5 by 9 inches. So just take that into consideration. I have found that if you vary the length of this, it really adjusts the fit. So when you make your, okay, so then let's see. You're going to take your two pieces that are face to face, and you're going to get your handy little straight pins. Okay, so you're going to need 4 straight pins. There they are. And then I'm going to take my, hold on a second. This is a little awkward teaching like this, but I'm going to take my two pieces that are face to face, and I'm going to put the ear strap between the 2 layers, okay? And I'm going to put it at an angle to the corner. Can you guys see that okay? So it's going to kind of 45-degree out to the corner. And I'm just going to pinch it between the 2 layers that way. And you can see the little piece sticking out there at the corner, okay? And 4 straight pins, and I'm going to pin it in place, okay? So each corner, then you're going to take the other side of that piece of the ear strap thing, this, and you're going to go right down to the short side of the rectangle. Okay, so pin it in this corner, okay? So here's one that I have already pinned to show you how it looks, okay? Hello. There we go. And it looks a little funny because the ear straps are kind of like pulling the fabric tension, so it looks a little less than flat, which is totally fine. Don't worry about that. Okay, so you're gonna pin it that way. Now, if anybody out there, are you guys, hi Uli, hi Rebecca. Oh my gosh. So hi Tammy, good morning to you from Cape Cod. So I want to just say, is there anybody out there, and maybe you can just pop a comment to let me know, do y'all have sewing machines? Are you all sort of sewer people, or are there people out there who are doing this with hand sewing, which is totally, completely 100% fine. All right, I'm not seeing people pop up, but I'm just going to add this in, okay? If you don't have a sewing machine, you can totally use like a straight, needle and thread, okay? So I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so we have the piece that's pinned together, 4 corners, right? Okay, now I have this one which I stitched, and I stitched it in thread that you could see, I'm hoping. Okay, so do you see how I started on here and I stitched around all 4 corners of the piece, and I left an opening. Where is it? Right here. Do you see the opening? Okay. So there are my pins on this side, and I'm just going to take those pins out and removing the pins, okay? And then we're just going to turn it right side out. So anybody who's a sewer out there knows this stuff. It's like super easy, but I just want to make sure that anyone who is not a sewer can do these too. So, okay, so we're going to turn it inside out, and then all of a sudden we're going to see these little ear straps, right? So you just can tug on those, and those kind of pull the corners out nice for you. Okay? All right. So there you have that. All right. And then you're going to press it. If you have an iron, this is where you're going to use it. So this is another one that I already prepped for you guys. So I pressed it down so it's all nice and flat. Okay? And then you're going to take your edges and you're going to make 3 gathers. Do you see how this one has these 3 big fat like pleat kind of things? Okay. One of the things that anybody who's been in a class with me knows is that I really don't measure a lot of things. We know that we want to gather this 3 times, and we know that we want to make them kind of even. So I'm going to just fold it like that, and I'm going to pin it. I'm just sorry, it's hard to talk to you guys and pin at the same time, so I can do it if I'm not looking at you. Hold on. Okay, so here's my first pin. Then I'm just gonna, you want them all go in the same direction, so you're just gonna fold the next pleat, and let's see if I can move that out of the way. Can you see? Okay, and then I'm gonna pin that one in place too. And here's one I've already pinned. So after you do the one side with all 3 pins, okay, can you see there's a green pin right over here? It's hard to see on the fabric. Okay, and then you're going to pin the other side, okay? And you're going to match them up so they're kind of, the same on both sides. How are you guys doing out there? Does this make sense to you? It's probably super duper easy for people who are sewers. Okay, I got a couple people with no sewing machine. I got somebody with, okay, great. Okay, cool. Okay, so we got our pleats all in there, they're pinned, okay? And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna top stitch around the outside of the whole piece. So do you see how that is there, you guys? Can you see I'm sorry, I'm not gonna apologize. My friend told me the other day, she's like, don't apologize all the time. So there's a double layer or double row of top stitching that runs the perimeter of the piece, and then you take your pins out. And that actually, the pleats kind of seem to fit your face a little better if you wear it with the pleats facing down on the outside. Okay, so you're just gonna, and around the ears. Super easy, right? Okay, so there's a couple people who don't have sewing machines, so I want to get back to them a little bit. I picked, now I have to put my glasses on because I can't thread a needle without these things, let me tell you. All right, so we're going to snip off a piece of thread that's a couple, I'd say 2 yards. I have a needle here that is a finer needle than the ones I've been working with the last couple of weeks if you've been to my tutorial. So this is like a sewing machine thread. It's like a regular needle. It's not fat at all. The other needles I use are generally thicker. Okay, so you're just gonna pull your thread down to match, and I'm gonna thread this needle with a single thread, but you're just gonna pull it down because you're gonna need quite a length of thread to get around the outside. Okay, so we're gonna go back. Let me find the one that I have that's pinned and that's on. Okay, so you're gonna go to this step. Okay, so those of you without a sewing machine, you're gonna go to here. Okay, and then you're just gonna, rather than starting with your sewing machine, you're just gonna start with your needle and thread. You're gonna do a real simple, this does not have to be fancy, kind of stitch. And let me just, I'm gonna take a couple stitches and then hold it up for you guys to see. Can you see it? It's like an in and out, like really the most basic stitch. And let me back up. And let me tell you that you really don't need a whole hell of a lot of thread to go around the perimeter of this, because you really don't need to do anything fancy. Okay, so if you cut a piece of thread that's, I don't know, a yard or a yard and a half long, you'll have plenty. And it's actually much easier to sew when you're not using extra thread, because extra thread does tend to get tangled. And I use beeswax on my thread so that it doesn't tangle when I'm hand sewing. And if you're interested in learning more about my beeswax and thread technique, it's in one of the previous Live at 11 tutorials. Okay, so right now I'm seeing a bunch of new faces show up. Thanks for being here, guys. But if you're just showing up for the first time, hi, Margaret Brunny, how are you? If you're showing up for the first time, we're just doing a hand-stitched edge on this, what's going to be a mask. And those people who have sewing machines, you can obviously just do this with a sewing machine, but there's a lot of people joining us today that are newbies to the whole wild world of sewing and don't have sewing machines, or if your sewing machine's broken or it just gives you a headache thinking about it, just go with the hand sewn technique. And if there are people out there who do not have a needle and thread in their home, which is, I think, quite common, reach out. I'll put a little pack together. It'll, I'll charge you whatever, a couple bucks, and I can put little packs together with some thread and a needle, and I'll put them right in my shop. And there's a bunch of other stuff in there too. You can get straight pins and all that kind of stuff. Do you see the stitch? Super easy. So you're just going to do that, and I have a big knot at the beginning. Do you see it? And you're just going to stitch right around. You're going to stop when you get to about here. Okay, so you have a little opening that you can turn it right side out with. Okay. And a lot of times people ask me, like, how do you end it? Like if you're a beginner sewer or you haven't done it in a while, how do you end your stitch? So there's two things I want to show you before I get back to the mask or the next step. First is when you get to the corner, that's where your ear, what should we call that? It's a band. It's the thing that holds this on your ears. When you get to that corner, you're just going to want to kind of double up on your stitch to make sure it's secure, because that's where there's going to be a stress point when you're wearing your mask. And let's see. So what I mean by that, let me just show you. All right, I'm at the corner, and okay. All right, once you have the ear band secured with your thread, you can remove your pin, and then you can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, so here I am at the corner. Okay, I'm just going to go backwards. I'm going to stitch backwards. And you can't really do it too much. It's not going to cause a problem. So you're going to wind up having like 3 sets of stitches here, because you're going to go frontwards and then backwards and then frontwards again, and that'll really secure that in place, which is what you want. Let's see. Okay, so do you see how that is now? Cool. So then you're going to just continue along with the other 3 corners, and when you get finished, you're going to go back to this step where you're going to turn it right side out, okay? And then you're going to press it if you have an iron, and you're going to, let me just show you, I'm going to back up a little bit. You're going to press it so it looks like this, okay? And then you're going to pin 3 big pleats down either side. So do you see how that is? I don't know if you can see the end there where they're folded, okay? And then you're going to top stitch the circumference of the mask to give you, to hold the pleats in place and to give you a nice crisp finish. So a couple of notes. I just want to reiterate, I am not a doctor. Just in case you weren't aware, I have no medical training whatsoever. I have done a fair amount of research on masks, and I know that people have been using things like vacuum cleaner bags and all sorts of non-woven fabrics to use as filters. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no experience in that. I have a ton of experience with fabrics and textiles. And this piece, this mask that I made this morning is, this is actually a piece of upholstery fabric scrap that I had kicking around from my girlfriend Mimi over there at Mill Upholstery in Sheffield, Massachusetts. And then the back side is a shirt that I cut up from the studio. So the fabrics that work the best are things like dress shirts, men's dress shirts, that weight, that cotton weight that's kind of a tightly woven fabric. You can use skirts. This is also the same type of fabric, like a tightly woven fabric. This is kind of lightweight, and a couple of the masks that I was sampling this morning, I used 2 layers of that and then a 3rd layer for the back. So if you have a lighter weight or more open weave fabric available to you, then just double it or triple it even to keep the airflow comfortable, but also to have the protection that you want from any kinds of germs coming in or going out. And one of the things that my husband told me when I told him I was going to be teaching this morning, he said, make sure you tell people that this is all about protecting each other, right? Like, this is not like, holy crap, keep that shit out of me. It's more like, I could have coronavirus. 50% of the people who have coronavirus are asymptomatic. So, you know, we all think, well, we don't all think one thing or the other, but one of the things that I feel like some people think is that, you know, they need protection themselves, which of course everyone does, but we also need to protect the people that we interact with in our communities and make sure that we're taking really good care of each other, because the sooner we can do this, the sooner we can kick some coronavirus ass and get rid of this shit and go back to a more social and interactive culture. So I want to thank everybody, especially the new guys that are here today. I really appreciate you being here. Hi, Carol Ryan, Lynn Liston. Yeah, the pieces. I'm going to go back over this before I sign off. The pieces that you need to make a mask, the sizes. You're going to cut at least 2 rectangles that are 6.5 by 9 inches, okay? If you have the lighter weight fabric, you might want to cut 3 or maybe even 4 of these rectangles. I recommend using at least 1 piece of a fabric that's a different color so that you know which side you want to put next to your face. I think it's important just to like be sure that you're always putting the same side next to your face. I don't know. It seems like that would be an important feature. So you cut those rectangles, and you have the very narrow pieces that are cut from like a very stretchy fabric. You can use leggings that you're not wearing, or like a camisole top, you know, the ones that have like the shelf bra built in that are super duper stretchy. If you have one of those headbands, you know, like the fabric type of headbands kicking around, you can use that fabric. You're going to cut those pieces a 1/2 inch wide. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch wide, and then when you stretch it, it turns into kind of like it's more of a, like a rolled, it's rolled. Okay, so you're going to cut that. Those pieces get cut between 6 and 7 inches in length. And then you're going to need 4, or actually you really need 6 straight pins to pin your pleats into all, you know, you only need 4 for the corners, but you do need 6 to pin the pleats. A needle and thread. And like I said, if you guys don't have a needle and thread, pop me a message or let me know in the comments, and I will send you a needle and thread in the mail, and you can make your mask with that. And like I said, you want to make sure that if you're sending these masks out to friends or family members that are not in your household, please be sure to let them know to wash them before they use them. Machine wash and dry, okay? And I think that that's a really good idea for everyone, like every day, probably machine wash and dry. So you should probably have a couple of these, okay? And finally, before I go, does anybody have questions? That's right, I am not a doctor. Peggy Wilson, hello. I just want to say that there are people out there who don't have the ability to make masks on their own, and I will have some available in my shop. Um, there's I'm trying to figure out a way to get them to people like the kids at the checkout line at the grocery store, because everybody needs to be wearing masks right now. Okay, we want to like contain the virus. We want to make sure that we're taking care of each other, and we also want to go back to, well, yeah, I don't want to say back to anything, because like honestly, there's things about this quarantine that I think are so beneficial and helpful. Um, but I think that I really miss hugging my friends. And I'm so thankful for each one of you here with me today, because it kind of feels like I'm hanging out with my friends. So the straight pins, someone's asking about the length of the straight pins. I use the world's most awesome straight pins. They're 1.75 inches long. And I don't mean to have like this turn into an infomercial. Can you see the pen? There we go. I sell them in my store on my website. It's Crispina, like that sign back there, .com. They're quilter's pins. If you have quilter's pins, you don't need to have very long pins. They're just really nice to use, especially for this where you're pinning through multiple layers of fabric. Any kind of straight pin will probably work. But they are super nice. And if you're a sewer and you want a kind of little super nice treat to brighten your week, order some. I make these little pin cushions. You see it? It's a ball jar. It's got 100 pins and a pin cushion top, and you can flip it inside. So, like if you're throwing it in your bag to take with you while you travel or whatever, all the needles and stuff will stay inside and not poke you or fall out in your bag. Okay, cool. Let's see. Any other questions? Do the stretch pieces unravel? No, they don't. That is such a common question, Karen. Thanks for reminding me. Interestingly enough, people ask me that a lot about all different kinds of fabrics that I cut. And no, they don't unravel. They really don't. It's a very fine weave. I don't know. Remember Flashdance? That girl with the thing off her shoulder, the t-shirt? It didn't unravel. She just went to town with the scissors and turned it into something that it wasn't to start with. And sweatshirts, t-shirts, the stuff we're talking about, like the leggings and the camisoles, you're good. You do want to cut them wide enough so that they maintain a fair amount of stretch. So you don't want to cut them narrower than like a 1/2 inch. You could even go 3/4 or a full inch if you want to. I'm thinking about the back of my ears. I'm thinking about people who have to wear these a lot because they're in public a lot. You want to make sure they're comfortable. So you don't want them too tight, but you also don't want them too loose. You want to make sure that they're really well protected. So if you cut them more narrow than 1/2 inch, the integrity of the stretch tends to kind of lessen. That's all I can think of to tell you about that. Hey Sherry, how are you, girl? So I just want to show you my designer mask before Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? We say that a lot where I live because our service is really bad. But this groovy little mask is made with upholstery fabric scrap and a shirt. And the first one I made, my husband actually took with him because he had to go hang out with his mom, and she's 90 and she lives down the road, and he thought, he just needs to start wearing a mask when he's hanging out with her. And it was just a shirt both sides, and it was this shirt. And he thought it was really kind of manly. So you can really kind of jazz your wardrobe up with these things. I'm telling you guys, I was thinking like beards, wouldn't it be cool or funny? Or like fake fur. My kids think I'm crazy. But yeah, if you make any like super funny ones, Becky Dries, raw net edges with Yes, Sarah's saying that the raw knit edges will roll up in themselves. Yeah, that's what t-shirts or any of the fine stuff that you use for the ear wire things, they don't unravel. But yeah, I was thinking, you know, you could go to town with some good humor masks. So I'm thinking like blue fake fur. I don't know. If you guys make like super silly ones, or if you make any ones, just take a picture and post them up on my Facebook because I would love to see them. And um, I'm really happy to be able to teach you guys this. If you have any questions, if you need a needle and thread, or if you have any suggestions for future live at 11 tutorials, I do these every weekday at 11 Eastern Standard Time, and I teach different ways to recycle the used clothing and used textiles that you might have kicking around your house. So you can stay creative and keep your mind focused on positive things during this super crazy and weird time. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I hope I see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for being here.